Do you want to put something on the Snapchat? Just like a screenshot or something to let people know what we're doing?
Yeah.
All right, cool.
I'll snap it.
I'm sorry about how poorly those snaps came out. I really thought it'd be easier to like film a cross country race. I was wrong.
It's okay. You'll have another chance. I think I'm going to States, so.
Surprise.
Okay, hold on. Caleb!
What's up?
Look at
There
your
he
face.
is.
Do you have some facial hair on there? Or is it just my camera thing?
No, there's a little bit.
Look at
No
that!
cross country beard.
Yeah! Should we get a
Hey.
picture of that for the snapper?
I got to get ready just in case we make nationals. I have that stash ready.
Mm.
Oh, good.
This is a good snap, everyone. That's going straight to the Snapchat account.
Yeah, attaboy.
That's right, kids. I just added it. Hopefully I'm on the right one, otherwise it's going to be weird. Nope, I'm on the right one. All good.
Eh. Your Snapchats on your regular account are weird anyway. Although I do enjoy them.
I try to give them sparingly. But
Yeah, it makes them a treat.
yeah, I want to be like a rare Snapchatter. It's like, oh, what's this guy up to? All right, hold on. I'm going to tweet about this also.
Okay, so Caleb and Sean, for the first question, I thought it would be cool if we each picked one of the 3 schools for the Pac-12. So like Oregon, Stanford, Colorado, each of us talks about each like one program's strengths and weaknesses and whether they have the strength to overcome said weaknesses.
Okay, that works.
Sounds good.
Do
you want to just do that for the conference or look ahead to nationals too? Or just do it for Pac-12? Because they're sort of different games.
Yeah. I think we start with conference for now and then maybe throw a quick comment in about how it translates moving forward, but I wouldn't do too much on that just yet.
Okay.
I can go either way, though.
Yeah, it doesn't really matter to me.
I think that makes sense, what you just said, Caleb. Hopefully we'll touch on the other stuff when we get closer to the other stuff. Okay. I'm just going to put the link up. And then... Alright, Fox, no need to be upset about it. Just kidding. I'm sure that was...
No, I was closing.
I know.
I was closing out of my other apps because this kills my phone battery.
I was just messing with you. It's okay. I didn't think you were actually getting pissed at me for taking so long.
It's okay.
Okay. So I'm going to do the Pac-12 question, the ACC question, SEC question, the Big East question, Big 12, Big 10, BYU, missing runners, overshadowed. That's my order. I'll also announce them before you have to answer them. So if you didn't catch the order, you'll figure it out. Okay. All right.
Did we want to pick... Did we decide who's taking which team for Pac-12?
Oh, no, we didn't do that. That's fine.
I was wondering if you were going to do that on the fly.
Do you guys have preference? Because I can do any of those teams.
I don't have a strong preference. I kind of like talking about Stanford, so I can take them, I guess.
Okay.
Doesn't-
John?
Doesn't really matter to me.
All right, I want to talk about Oregon.
Okay.
Cool.
All right.
Oh, wow, yes, Matt. All right, let's go.
Okay. I'll start, and then I'll do the intros, and we'll be ready to go. Okay. Here we go. All right, everybody. Welcome to season 2 of the Roundhouse. We're back. We're better than ever. Uncut, unfiltered. This is our panel for the first episode. I'm going to be hosting again. I'm Jarrett Felix, for those of you who don't know me, also known as E-Train11. And my word that I'm going to use for myself is unattractive. And we also have on this uncut, unfiltered episode, we have the undersized Alex Fox. How are you doing, Alex?
Hi. So welcome to any of our new viewers from the Let's Run post. I hope you enjoy what you've seen so far. And I guess my unword will be unimpressed with Jarrett's humor tonight.
All right. Also, uncut, unfiltered, and unshaven, Caleb Gatchell. How are you doing, Caleb?
I'm doing really well. Thanks, Jarrett. Made it through midterm season. I'm still alive. Thanks for checking, everyone. So I'm looking forward to taking a break, talking some cross country, and I'm unfazed by Jarrett's attempts at humor. I will stay on track, and I will stay focused tonight.
All right. I like how everyone just has these uns prepared. It's pretty good. Okay. Uncut, unfiltered, and undercover, we have Sean Collins. How you doing, Sean?
I'm good. I was very unaware that we were going with unwords today, but I guess mine will be unattached, as I'll no longer be running for a college team. So that's way more fun.
Okay. So then he'll be unbiased. Now that we've gotten all that out of the way, sorry, it'll get better, I promise. Okay, so I appreciate everybody bringing their wit. That's a good sign because I'm going to be keeping score tonight. Season 2 of the Roundhouse, we're stepping up our game. We're keeping score. We don't have any buttons or anything that we're going to be using to keep the score, but I'm going to try to nod at you when you're making a good point. I'll give you a yes nod if it's good. If it's a no nod, that's a bad sign. Unless it's like a humorous no nod, then it could go either way. So let's jump right in.
It's a no nod?
Well, there's a playful no nod, and then there's a no, that's very bad point. So you'll catch on. You guys will catch on. Trust me. All right. So here we go. We're going to jump right in. We're talking about the conferences. Garrett obviously did a great job breaking down kind of a thorough display of all the conferences. But we're going to do it in a different matter here, talking about some of the questions that might be on your mind, or at least were on our minds. So if we jump in with the Pac-12, which might be the most competitive conference in the country, by most metrics I'd say it is, they've got 3 legitimate title contenders within this conference. We've got Stanford, we've got Colorado, we've got Oregon. I've asked each of our panelists to pick one of these teams to kind of break down for us and who they think is going to win the conference this upcoming weekend. So we're going to start with Alex Fox. What do you got for us, Alex?
All right, so I'm going to be talking about the Oregon Ducks. Obviously, they're coming off a big win at pre-nationals. This is a very, very strong team. They have Edward Cheserek. That's that. Behind him, they have Matt Maton, who I really, really liked coming into this season. He had an awesome, awesome race at pre-nationals. And I'm going to, I think one of the big knocks on him and a lot of the other Oregon guys is he's a 1,500 runner. He obviously had a great freshman season, but what I think gets overlooked is he did have a solid cross-country season as a freshman. He was 17th at conferences last year. And he also ran 7:53 indoors. And in that race, he beat a lot of big names. He beat Joe Klecker. I think he was in front of Amar Musa, Morgan Pearson. This guy's legit. Behind him, Tanner Anderson. He was so good as a freshman. He got way overlooked. I think he was 53rd at nationals, which was one of the top freshmen behind, John Dressel and Grant Fisher. You can't compare him to them, but he's primed for a top 40, top 35 finish, I think, especially given, what he did at the end of the track season running 14 flat and what he's shown this season. Right with him is Sam Prakel. He had a breakout track season. He's been really consistent this year. And, one of the big storylines, I think, from pre-nationals was the emergence of Levi Tomet. I think we all sort of expected Tomet to Mango to redshirt.
All right, we had a little technical difficulty there. We lost Alex Fox, but
Am I
he's
back?
You're back.
All right, where did you lose me?
At Levy. We lost you at Levy.
All right, so Levi Tomet and Austin Tomagno, I think, were the big storylines for Oregon at pre-nationals. They had really, really strong performances. Obviously, Tomango dropped out. He was with Tomet. Tomet finished top 30. And that gave some insurance for Oregon, who are obviously missing Travis Newman and Jake Langay. So I think the big question moving forward is, can these 1,500 guys and freshmen, Tomango, Tomet, Sam Prakel, and Matt Maton, make the transition to the cross country, be consistent, and going forward, can they translate it into a 10K at nationals? I really like this team. They showed they can run on a tough course at Terre Haute. I really, really think they can do it again at a faster Pac-12 course.
All right, Sean, jump in next. Who are you picking?
Okay, so I'm going with Colorado. I think I'm going to talk about some of their cons before I go to their pros, and this is probably the least. Like, this Colorado team has the least depth of probably one in the last 3-4 years. Typically, you're looking at like 3 or 4 guys who are all in that like 4 through 7 spot that it doesn't matter who runs, and they're all it's gonna be fine. This year, you look at their pre-nats, and you had that group of 5, and then there was a steep drop-off to 6-7. So I think that's the tough thing. The good thing is you only score 5. So you have a great top 2, which I think is going to be way better than Oregon's. Maton's a great runner. I just don't see him living up to Ben Sorrell and John Dressel just yet. It compares with that Stanford top 2. I think when you let these Colorado guys go, it's going to be phenomenal. Wetmore always does a great job about peaking at Pac-12s. I mean, if you have a pack that was separated by 12 seconds, I think, at pre-nats, pack of 5, that's going to be pretty high up there at Pac-12s. There's not a lot of guys who are going to be breaking that up, and I think there's going to be more of those people like Colby Gilbert, Michael Williams from Washington State that are going to be jumping in front of all these like 3, 4, 5 guys for Oregon and Stanford compared to the Colorado guys.
All right, good stuff. Caleb, finish us off in this category.
All right, I'm taking Stanford, and I think the first thing you have to talk about with Stanford is that 1-2 punch at the front with McGorty and Fisher. Those 2 guys have been 2 of the best runners in NCAA since the middle of last fall when we started to see Fisher run in a Stanford uniform for the first time, and they're up there every time. You saw it at Nutty. 2 of the top finishers in that field, and what you could argue is a little bit of an off day for McGorty. You look at Milt's interview afterwards. Yeah, he ran okay, but could have been smarter, could have been better. So I think those 2 have more to show. And then you talk about the unknown a little bit. I think that's the biggest question mark for Stanford is what happens when you throw Alex Osberg and Thomas Ratcliffe in there. Milt said leaning heavily towards adding Ratcliffe right now. He ran faster than Fisher did his freshman year at their home invite earlier already. That's a great sign. That being said, he's another one of those milers who's adjusting not just to an 8K, 10K distance, but to his first cross-country season ever. He was a soccer player in high school. He's never done this. So it's going to be tough for him to keep repeating that success, I think. So there's the unknown factor there. Osberg's never run a college race. Nobody knows what he's going to look like for sure, but he was one of the best runners in his high school class. I think people forget that because we haven't seen his name out there in 2 years, but he's got the potential to be a top 20 finisher. So I think the upside's really good. And I think if you put those 2 guys in, they fix what was their biggest problem at Wisco, which was that 30-second gap from Fisher to their 3rd guy. You close that up a bit, you get a few guys in there, and I think they do break Colorado's pack up, which is why ultimately I'm taking Stanford for the win.
Okay. It's good stuff. Osberg, a topic of conversation around the blog, both among us and among some readers. So interesting to bring him up. Good stuff. So let's jump conferences. Let's move to the ACC. And within this conference, we've got a guy by the name of Justin Knight who's been doing a lot of good things within the conference. and really making a name for himself there. But we have some other individuals who have been stepping up from some of the other schools within the conference. I mean, nobody has a great shot to take down somebody like Justin Knight, but I'm going to ask you guys now, who do you think has the best shot to topple him at ACCs? Could be anybody, even some of his teammates. Let's start with Sean.
So I got 2 picks here. One is probably the most outlandish pick you'll hear all night, and that would be Ilyas Ayani. Ayani has been in the top 10 in all of his races through 6K. Come the last 2K, he's fallen off to, I think, 12th at Panorama Farms, and then a dramatic 86. I think they went to Prenats. So that was a pretty pathetic last 2K from him. However, he's been getting better and better, and he came from a small school, Lamar, which he's transferred from, and I think that now he's getting ready, like getting used to racing with that Syracuse crew and being in this big conference. I think he's going to hold that together a lot more, and being with Knight's got to push him since he was used to winning. None of the rest of the Syracuse guys have been used to winning like Yanni and Knight have. Now the predominant pick is probably Edwin Kabichi out of Louisville. He's been top 5, I think, almost every ACC championship he's ever run. Phenomenal in the steeple. That always goes well into cross-country form. He's probably the true number 1 challenger to Justin Knight at this point.
All right, let's go over to Caleb. What are your thoughts on this?
I'm going to steal from Sean and take 2 names as well, but I'm actually going to go in a different direction. I think Henry Wynn's a big wild card if he's in there. He's got the speed to match Knight in that last 300. I mean, we saw Knight just blow everyone's doors off at Wisco in the last 300. It was unbelievable. The only guy I've seen pull away from a pack like that before is Edward Cheserick. But obviously Henry Wynn, elite 1500 speed as well. If that race isn't fast up front, he's got the potential to make Knight sweat a little more in the last 300, I think, than someone like, say, Futsum Selassie, who's never really been known as that speed guy. The other name I like a lot is Sam Parsons out of NC State. You saw him make a big push at Wisconsin as well, had the field sweating there. And I think maybe if he gets a little lucky, makes that push, and Wynn and Knight hold back, watching each other a little bit, waiting for the kick, and they let him get too far away, maybe he can steal it, similar to what Tommy Curtin did to Cheserick at Prenats last year. But all those guys are going to have a tough time stealing from Knight. He's looking really, really good right now. And looking forward, you heard it here first, he's going to make Cheserick sweat a lot more than he ever has for his title.
All right, we'll go to Fox. Then I have a quick follow-up question. Go ahead, Fox.
Well, I also like Henry Wynn and George Parsons of NC State. Obviously, Wynn is an elite 1500 guy. If it's the right race, he can win. Parsons did beat McGordy at Wisco, so that's it's a big scalp to have. But if anybody is going to beat Justin Knight in this race, it's going to be his teammate Colin Benny. And the only way Justin Knight loses in this race is because him and Benny cross the line together, because they're going to be so far ahead of everybody else, and Justin Knight lets his teammate win to build confidence. We saw what Justin Knight did at Panorama over those last 2K. We saw what Justin Knight did at Wisco at the end with those last 400. He is right now the second best cross-country runner in the country. As a wreck. We haven't seen Tiernan. He already beat Futsum. So I'm not, I would bet a house on him winning this race, but if anybody's going to upset him, it's going to be his teammate crossing the finish line together.
Okay, so it seems to be a lot of love for Knight right now. So here's my question, and I want everyone to answer in one word. It can be a hyphenated word. I want you to put a percent chance on Justin Knight winning the NCAA championship. A percent chance. We'll go Sean, then Caleb, then Fox. I just want one word.
10%.
Okay, close enough to one word. Caleb, go.
45.
Nice. Extra points for one word. Fox.
33.
Okay, interesting. All right. That's pretty good odds. I don't know. I would consider we consider picking against him if there was odds against him. On the flip of that. Okay, here we go. Moving on. That didn't explain that great. So, moving on to the SEC. So, we haven't talked too much about this conference recently, but there's an interesting potential for a good team battle here. We've got Arkansas and Ole Miss in what could potentially be one of the closest team battles of the weekend. So, I'm asking you guys now to take your pick between these two schools. Caleb, you're up first.
I want to say Arkansas. They bring their 10K guy back, 2036 man, Andrew Rono. You would think that gives them the edge, but first race, rust buster, and their coach said as much. We're not cutting them loose just yet, and I think that gives Ole Miss just enough of an edge to squeak it out. Obviously they ran great at Notre Dame, upset. Or great race at Penn State as well to follow that up. So they've been consistent. Look like a bunch of milers that finally figured out how to run a cross-country race. So I think they'll take SECs, but Arkansas is waiting for bigger days and better glory.
All right. Fox, what do you think?
It's going to be Arkansas, and it's not going to be the closest race of the weekend. They put 3 in the top 15 at pre-nats. They have such a good top 3 right now with Frank Lantooni. They have the resurgence of Alex George and Jack Bruce, who's their top returner from Nationals last year. They had a 4th guy who was 29th in Austin Dahlquist. You throw Andrew Rono into that mix. Ole Miss, we saw the hype around them last year. They're not a cross-country program. They did beat an Oklahoma State team that I think is overrated. They had a really good showing at Notre Dame, which I think featured more individuals than it should have featured teams. I think Arkansas is, outside of an elite program right now, but they're far and away better than Ole Miss as far as on the grass goes.
All right, 2 dissenting opinions. Sean, get in there and break the tie.
One of these teams has won 6 straight SEC titles, and they're going to win a 7th. Arkansas does not lose at the SEC meet. Ole Miss has run really well so far this season. They do not have anyone to at each spot. I think Ole Miss is a little bit behind Arkansas. MJ Herb isn't getting second at pre-nats. He's not that good. If you're getting second at Penn State, he win Penn State. Either winning Penn State, it doesn't transfer to being second at pre-nats where Frank Lantooni was. It's just Arkansas doesn't lose this meet. It's just I can't even give you a reason why Ole Miss has a shot.
All right, you heard it here first, people. Go to Vegas, bet on it right now. Okay, we're jumping now. We're going to go to the Big East Conference. And so an interesting team this year has been Georgetown. They've had a little bit of some ups and downs. They've got a really talented group that on paper looks like a team that could be one of the top, 5 schools in the nation in Terre Haute. But they've had their struggles this season. What kind of version of Georgetown are we going to see at the conference championships? We're going to go right back to Sean.
Honestly, as someone who goes to Penn, I hope that we're seeing their version of Wisco, the one that Jonathan Green is kind of missing, and Clevenger isn't anywhere near where he should be. Honestly, though, I don't think it matters for Georgetown. The only team that's even close to them in the Big East could be Providence, and I think even at half speed, Georgetown probably wins this conference championship. So the important thing here is what it leads them to do at Mid-Atlantic Regionals. But I'm not seeing this being a huge deal for Georgetown. So Scott Carpenter's probably going to have a great race. The rest of the team, who really knows? I'm not sure it matters.
All right. Caleb, what do you think on this one?
I think Georgetown's in a little more trouble than people think. Jonathan Green was supposedly hurt late in the summer in a boot. Showed up subpar race at Paul Short. Doesn't show up at pre-nats. Got to wonder how healthy he is. Maybe tried to rush things coming back. Wasn't there. So I think you got to be worried about that. Clevenger has not been himself. That it hasn't been anywhere near where we expected he would be. And I don't see the depth on that team to make up for one, let alone two of those losses. Now, what they do have going for them is the Big East isn't exactly strong this year. So I think they still have to be the favorites. I think they're still in good shape to take that, but I don't think it's going to be easy, and I don't think we see a Georgetown team come out and impress us all and make us go, oh, yeah, that's a team that's legitimately going to dominate their region. They're going to go to NCAAs, and they're going to be in the question for a top 10, top 15 finish. I think we're going to walk away from Big East with a lot more questions. We're going to see Villanova bring Pat Tiernan back, maybe Logan Wetzel. His name we haven't heard a whole lot from, but he was a stud in high school. You throw him in there, all of a sudden Nova goes from a pretty good top 3 guys running to they've got a pretty solid top 5 that could challenge with Georgetown. So I think we come away with a lot more questions and a lot more skeptical of Georgetown's strength.
All right, Fox, what do you have to say on the topic?
All right. If not now, when with Georgetown? You look at this conference after Patrick Tiernan, I think Georgetown should realistically have 3 in the top 5. Jonathan Green is healthy. He was top 5 at nationals. He should be second in this conference. Michael Clevenger is an All-American. He was 38th at nationals. He should be right with Green. And then Scott Carpenter has proven to be just as good as these guys. He should be right there with them too. Behind them, Christian Alvarado is, I think, an underrated runner. He had a strong showing at Paul Short. He had a decent race at Wisco, nothing crazy, but the field is going to be much, much thinner here at conferences than it was at Wisco. And then all they need is a 5th guy, and they should be really, really looking at a low point total. And I think, it's just conferences. This is a team going into regionals that needs confidence. They need momentum, because you start to go into regionals with a deeper field, it might not look so great based on what they've done this season. I really do expect Georgetown, a program that's been there in the past, that really shocked a lot of people last year after they had all the controversy and all the transfers. They had a really strong season overall. I expect them to right this ship. They're going to be fine. They'll dominate this race.
All right, interesting. Okay, I got another follow-up question here. We alluded to it a little bit. Right now, if you had to pick 2 teams to come out of Georgetown's region at this point, who would your 2 be? We'll go right back to Fox.
I like Georgetown, and I like Villanova with the emergence of Logan Wetzel.
All right, Sean, what do you think?
I think that it's Georgetown's not looking too strong. I'm going to go out on a limb and say Villanova and Penn.
Ooh, all right. Caleb, what do you got?
If there was any other team in the region, I would pick against Georgetown, but there's not. So it's Villanova and Georgetown in that order.
Oh, all right. All right. So we got some interesting stuff there. That'll be a good one for possibly next time to discuss. Okay, moving on to the next conference, we're going to talk about the Big 12. Similarly, we've got 2 teams here that could have a nice battle. We have Oklahoma State. They've been national champions in the past, but not recently. They've struggled a little bit to return to that form of every year they're a contender. But this year, they've had some surprising success even without one of their best guys in Sirach. So they've added some transfers, and they're going up against an Iowa State team that's had a really strong pack. And personally, I'm always a big fan of seeing these packs in action. So I ask you guys, which team do you think has the edge going into Big 12s? We're going to go to Caleb.
I think it's still got to be Oklahoma State. They impressed me a lot at Penn State. You see Hassan Abdi with a big-time race. Josh Thompson stepped up. I think there were legitimately some questions about whether he could be a cross-country guy after saw a ton of success on the track. Doesn't always translate. But see those two up front leading the way for them. That was solid. And behind that, it wasn't a huge drop off. It was about a 25-second gap from 2 to their 5. And I think Sylvester Barris is capable of running better than that. Obviously, he came into the year hyped up to be right up there with Thompson, I believe. So I think they've got enough low sticks, and the spread is not as tight as Iowa State's, but it's tight enough. So I think they'll take it.
All right, great stuff. Sean, we are going to you next. What do you got?
I would love to pick Iowa State here. The question is how far into that top 3 of Oklahoma State that Thomas Pollard can bring that pack. I think it's scary at the Big 12 is a pretty weak conference. Oklahoma's maybe a decent 3 behind Oklahoma State and Iowa State, but because there's not a lot of huge guys, the ability for Oklahoma State to go 1, 2, 3 and put 3 guys in front of the Iowa State's 1, it just makes it too difficult for Iowa State to catch up at that point. So I have to go with Oklahoma State. I think Barris could still win this meet. Bad meet at Penn State, but he looked great at Cowboy Jamboree. Who knows what type of travel he's done before meets before, so gotta go with Oklahoma State.
All right, good stuff. Interesting angle on the travel piece there. Never thought about that before. Fox, jump in.
Yeah, this is a ridiculous question. It's gonna be Iowa State. I love this pack. Kevin Hoyos and Thomas Pollock are both 2 legitimate low stick. They were both top 25 at Wisconsin. Everybody's ignoring that. And then at Roy Griak, they had 5 guys within 10 places of each other. I think there were like 17, 18, 19, 20, and then like 23. Something ridiculous like that. Pollock and Hoyles are going to pull that entire pack, which includes the incredibly talented Andrew Jordan. Who has Oklahoma State beaten to give them any sort of confidence? They beat an Ole Miss team that's made up of track runners. They beat Luke Trainer at their home meet, who's one runner from Tulsa. They did this last year where they didn't beat anybody, and everybody was like, oh, look, they're undefeated. They go to nationals and they blow up. The same thing is going to happen, except this is happening earlier because Iowa State is really underrated and they're really talented. That pack is going to be 5 in the top 10. They're winning the meet.
All right, Fox, laying down the law as always, but probably not going to do so well insulting the questioner who's giving out the points. That was a bold move, certainly. Okay, moving on. We're going to the Big Ten. So Ben Flanagan hasn't been running for Michigan, which opens the door for Wisconsin to be the favorites in the Big Ten, possibly big favorites in the Big Ten. They have a super talented roster. They've got a historic coaching staff and great history there, which I guess goes with the word historic. But last year we saw a Wisconsin team that none of us, I think, were prepared to see at the beginning of the year. And they've even looked a little vulnerable this year at times, especially when sickness comes into play. So I want to give I want an index, a trust index for Wisconsin. You can make up where the endpoints are of the index. Feel free to get creative. And Fox, I'm going right back to you. What do you got?
So on a scale of 1 to 10, I'm going to go 7.7 in my confidence with Wisconsin. They should be going 1-2 in this meet if Malachi is healthy. I'm not going to try to pronounce his last name. Morgan McDonald showed that he's legit. He's a top 10 contender come nationals. Malachi has been there. He's been top 10 at nationals. They should be finishing 1-2. Joe Hardy is obviously very talented. I think he's a better cross-country runner than he's given credit for. And then they have 2 really talented guys who have not produced yet in Olin Hacker and Zach Snyder. But they'll find their grooves. Hacker made some improvements at Wisco. He wasn't incredible, but he had a good run. Snyder was nowhere to be found, but he'll be right there with Hacker at conferences. I don't think Michigan without Flanagan can do this. If he runs, Michigan is a real threat, but Wisconsin does have that solid top 5, and they're going to finish 1-2. That's really, really hard to overcome for Michigan.
All right, let's go to Caleb next. What's your index?
On a scale to making nationals historic number of times in a row to 2015. I got to go with 2015. I don't like that Malachi hasn't finished a race. Sure, McDonald's looked good, but Malachi, this is a problem now. You consistently had some issues in cross now. Zach Snyder's a freshman and was nowhere to be found at Nutty. I don't see any reason to think that changes. College there's a transition there, and he hasn't proven success yet, so I'm not going to assume success. Hacker made a stride. Hardy honestly has plateaued in the last few years. I haven't seen him continue to make the steps forward that we all thought he might. So yeah, I think they're in trouble, and I think Michigan's really talented, and Michigan was excited to get him last year. That was a big deal to them. And I think they want to prove it wasn't a fluke. So they're going to come out firing. They're going to be ready to go.
All right. I like that scale as well. Sean, what do you got?
So for my scale, I guess I'm going for the Richter scale. So we got some logarithmic, higher numbers, more trust. I'm going with the 1. I do not trust this team at all. Here's a few teams, and let's see if people know what they have in common. Michigan, Michigan State, Minnesota, Illinois, and Iowa. Those are the teams that ran Roy Griak, and they're running at Minnesota for Big Ten. And that is a big deal because that course is tough. Wisconsin, I don't think, has run in Minnesota in the last couple of years. People who go out fast die hard. That doesn't spell a good race for Malachi. Doesn't even spell him finishing. Maybe we'll see him make 6K. I think that Michigan was 4th at Roy Griak. Michigan State was 5th, 5 points back. No one's talking really about them at all. I think you have to think about both of those teams beating Wisconsin this weekend. Just don't really see the depth there. Ben Flanagan will not be on that Michigan team, though, according to the Michigan website. They published their roster, and Flanagan is not on it. Maybe we'll see him at regionals. But this might be his best time to redshirt.
All right, very interesting. All right, good stuff, guys. I appreciate you playing along with the scale. All right, so we're moving away from defined conferences here. We're going to try to go through this last couple stuff fairly quickly. So I want to jump to BYU, first of all. They were one of the hot teams on everyone's radar at the beginning of the season, obviously, when they matched up against Syracuse. They have a deep squad, and just recently they ran a couple guys in the outside of the varsity race. They have Dylan Farnsworth, who was their top returner from last year, and Clayton Young, who was their second man across at Panorama, which I alluded to earlier. So first of all, kind of a two-part question here. Do you think these guys are going to be on the national squad? And with these guys, are they going to, how high can they push this team if everybody's clicking? And let's go to Fox.
So I think Farnsworth and Clayton Young will absolutely make this team. Farnsworth has the credentials from last year. I think he was like second at West Coast conferences last year. And what's more is if he had run the same time that he ran in the B race, in the A race, he would have been BYU's 6-man across. So he's already in the top 7 by time. And you factor in that, he's basically running by himself. He's legit. And then Clayton Young, finishing 5th at Panorama right next to Nick Montanez, who's their low sick. He will be there. And you look at this team, you throw those 2 guys in with Montanez, Roy Linkletter, who's made huge strides, and then Jonathan Harper, who's been really under the radar this year, really good as that 3rd runner, who I think will be their 5th runner. That's a really good pack of 5. And with how much I think is up in the air with nationals this year, there's no really defined favorite team. I think NAU has their weaknesses. We talked about Oregon and the other 2 Pac-12 teams. They have their weaknesses. If BYU runs those 5 guys and they're on their game, which they haven't shown they can do yet, but if they can, that's a team that can win nationals.
Okay, Sean, let's go to you next.
Fox, I'm going to fact check you on this one. Farnsworth did not run alone in that B race. In fact, he lost to his teammate. So I don't know what that says there, that he's not even the best guy in the B race, but you push him into that, you say the 6 box based on time, you think Clayton Young's going to be ahead of him. There's only so many spots on that team left. I do think they're both going to make that national squad. I think there's just too many freshmen that ran in the A race. With them in the squad, though, the way that Farnsworth had run, it's not looking like he's back to his form from last year. Clayton Young could push them up to a top 3 squad, but I think they're sticking where they are in that kind of 4 or 5 spot. Maybe even dropping down to 6, 7, because I think Arkansas and Syracuse are gonna jump them in the standings real soon.
All right, Caleb, what do you think? Oh, go ahead. You can go ahead, Caleb. We'll let Fox come back in when you're done.
All right. I like this BYU team a lot. I think they showed a lot at Panorama. Clayton Young was, you mentioned, second on the team there. I think you give a guy an off day. I think he'll be up there. Farnsworth, he's experienced. He's an experienced leader. He was top guy at nationals last year. So I think he finds a way to make it into that squad as well. It's tough to know everything that's going on with training within a given group. Maybe he was banged up earlier in the season. You never know what's up. But I think Farnsworth he's going to find a way on that squad. It's going to be important for him to find a way on that squad just to have that extra piece of experience. Because like we said, that there is no sure favorite at this point for a national title, and BYU is certainly in that conversation. So have that leadership in the race, helping some of those younger guys through. I mentioned they freshmen, a couple sophomores in their top 7 at Wisconsin. That's going to be big for them. And I think those 2 guys are capable of producing on the big stage. They know regionals is when it's time to show up. That's when stuff matters, and then get to nationals and show up again there. They'll be ready to go. BYU's legit this year. They're not being talked about enough. Watch out for them.
All right, Fox.
I just wanted to respond to Sean. They finished 0.2 of a second apart. They finished together. He didn't get beat by his teammate. He finished across the line with his teammate. He will be fine. He was 3rd at the conference meet last year. This guy who beat him, Daniel Carney, this is his first cross-country season. Donald Farnsworth will be fine.
All right. Well, it will be settled on the course, which is what's always nice about the sport, not to get too political as always. So we're going in. It's a pretty close battle here between all 3 of you on my little scoreboard that I got going on the side. So we're going to do our final question, and we're going to combine a couple questions here. So FlowTrack recently, they talked about some of the top missing runners who have been out of action. Some for the whole season, some just recently missing out on the big weekends at pre-nets in Wisconsin. We also have done a lot of talking about some of the big conferences and some of the most talked about, most publicized schools. So here's what I want to know. I want your top missing runner, who could be the most important piece to come back to the lineup this weekend. And then I want to know about somebody who is under the radar that we haven't been talking about, that's overshadowed by these big schools, that you feel like deserves a shout out in this super highly publicized video that we have right now. So we're going to go to Caleb first. Go ahead, Caleb.
All right. Biggest missing piece. Yeah, I go with Pat Tiernan, because he takes that team from not making the national meet to making it. And obviously that's a huge difference. I don't think any of the other missing pieces bring that kind of a change to the season and give them a jump in their team into a top 3 conversation and top 4 conversation at nationals. So I think Tiernan's the biggest X factor coming back. As far as a guy who's overshadowed, not getting talked about a lot, Jarrell Mock out of Colorado State has been really, really solid the last 2 years. Had maybe a little bit of an off day at Wisconsin. Not quite, but we might have expected from him. But he's going to be up there. He's going to dominate his conference this weekend, and then he's going he's going to be in that top 5 at that regional meet, I think. I like him a lot, and I think he's going to be making waves at the end of the season, so give him a little press right now.
All right. Great stuff. Thank you. Fox, you are next. What do you got?